Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Edge, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today at the lamp bench, we have the tale of the three little pigtails. This is a fairly modern accent lamp made in the style of the early 1900s. Down here on the base, we've got acanthus leaves, ivy leaves, and some sort of flower, which gives us a good botanical mix. There are three lights with these fitters, which would hold some nicely colored glass shades. And the reason it's in here today is because one of them has simply come apart. Now, putting a new socket inside of a deep cup like this presents a problem when it comes to putting the wires on the terminals. And so we solved that problem with a technique called pigtailing. Get all this cut off of here. Now, I don't have to take each of these arms off to rewire them. But this one with the broken socket, I'm going to need to be able to hold it in a vise without doing any damage. So I've got to get it off. Now I can see there's some corrosion here, which indicates that this thing's gotten pretty hot, which is of course why the socket fell apart in the first place. And I'm going to spray some liquid wrench down in there and let it soak for a while and hope that this comes off easy without having to do any type of surgery. Now, the fastest way to get something loose like this would be to take a small torch and heat it up. The different rates of expansion between the metal would break the rust loose, and then it should come off without too much effort. But since this is pot metal, which has a brass plating on the outside of it, and any amount of heat might peel that off and make a big mess, we're stuck with using the penetrating oil, which often works just fine. That pulls it out, and we're ready to start going back together. Now, the reason this video is called The Tale of the Three Little Pigtails is because with this fitter cup, it's obviously impossible to get the screws to tighten down around the wires. So the wire will have to be installed before the socket is installed in the cup. Now, as is our custom, we shall listen to the sermon of the lamp. Lamp wire sold in the United States and just about everywhere else in the world is made up of many small strands of wire. This allows it to be curled, folded, and it won't take a hard kink. This presents a problem when we have to fasten it underneath a screw terminal because multi-strands spread out like that, and it's actually a violation of the National Electrical Code to put multi-strand wire under a screw terminal. It will splay out, will not get tight, and since it's not tight, it gets hot, and then we end up with the socket like we had that started this whole job. Now, the solution to multi-stranded wire is to make it into single-stranded wire with a little drop of solder right on the tip. That's called tinning, and that solves the problem. This wire will now tighten down nice and firmly underneath the screw terminal and won't be a problem. The next point of the sermon is that lamp wire sold like this, duplex, two wires joined together at the middle, comes with a smooth side and a ridge side. And that is so that you can tell which wire goes to which screw. All North American sockets will have a brass colored screw and a silver colored screw. And the ridge side will go up underneath the silver screw. It's always wrapped around clockwise so that when I tighten this screw down, it pulls the screw under, it pulls the wire under the screw instead of pushing it out. And do the same thing on the other side, tucking it nice and tight down in there like that. And we are ready to reinstall this socket. And here we have a pigtail socket. Now, I made this one, but they're available in the catalogs. They're usually called a socket with leads. They come with different lengths on them, different styles. And they have one disadvantage that I try to avoid, and that is that to install the socket, you're going to have to twist the wire. And that's something I like to avoid. But in this case, both ends of the wire are free, and there's enough flexibility. Plus, it's only going to be about 2 or 3 turns to get this thing down. Now, I'm putting this blue thread lock on here because there's no practical way to tighten this with a pair of pliers or any kind of wrench or anything. And that blue thread lock, when it sets, it will leave this nice and tight so that just the ordinary changing of a light bulb or something won't unscrew the socket. Now, the connection on the bottom is straightforward. The lamp cord has a smooth side and a ridge side, just like the white wires do. And to make it a little easier when I'm gathering them all together, I paint a black stripe on the smooth side. And all connections at the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage are soldered. We don't use wire nuts, and certainly don't just twist the wires together and hope that the tape will hold it. But the trick here is you hold the soldering gun on the wire, get the wire hot, and then you let the solder flow through all the strands of the wire. And you come out with a good solid connection which will be reliable for years to come. Now the last thing to do is to trim off the end nice and straight. Make sure I don't have any sharp edges sticking out. Flatten them down with a pair of pliers if I feel something like that. And then the connection is covered with shrink tubing, which is a peculiar kind of plastic which, when it gets hot, it shrinks. And that leaves a nice, good, well-insulated cover over our connection. And then a bit of Secret Underground Laboratory overkill. I put another piece over it. And I'm confident that that will never cause a problem. Pull this up in here, and the felt that's going to cover the bottom of it will be enough to secure all of this. Now the last operation is to install the cord switch. The way a cord switch works is these two little teeth right here on either end of the switch are going to punch through the insulation into the wiring, and that will be our switch. In order to make that work, we have to cut a notch out of the smooth side, and switches are always installed on the smooth side no matter what kind of switch it is. Take this little piece, get it out, make sure we haven't left any little wires in there. The bottom half of it will lay like that. Get it down in here. Nice and straight. And holding this perfectly straight, we press those little barbs through the insulation and tighten it down. That's the Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory. Thank you for sitting through this video with me. I would really like it if you would subscribe if you haven't already. A like is always good. And if you have any questions or comments, I answer all, respond to all. I'm happy to do so. And again, thank you for watching.